Time for public comments. If you wish to address the commission, this is your opportunity to do so. Please approach the lectern and state your name and address. Mr. Lamont, could we ask you to keep your comments fairly confined and
I appreciate it.
reasonable?
I appreciate it. Let's go around. Ladies and gentlemen, I see how new face tonight. I don't believe you introduced. This is Reed.
We were going to do, we'll do that in our commissioner comments. Sounds
She must be Heather's new assistant, right?
I think that's correct.
I just passed you a packet, and on top of that is a letter that I asked to be attached as an attachment to tonight's minutes. I'll save, in the interest of time, reading that to you, but I'm very serious with my request. My shirt's not symbolic thinking I'm Captain America. I want to ask you how many of you served in the service and or had loved ones that did, and those that paid the ultimate price. I've been trying to get a light repaired over those graves at Crimson Dawn since the 14th of June. To add insult to injury, flags weren't dropped to half mast at the governor requested on 9/11. Inexcusable. I wore this shirt so you all remember. I asked you once before, and that light's still isn't fixed. I drove over there at 6 o'clock this morning, it wouldn't work. All's in your court. Let's talk about a few things, so I'll run out of time. It's forced you shut me down once time. I have some good things to say. As I told you the last time I was here, please don't shoot the messenger. You're all my friends. Steve, I want to compliment you. You wrote notes the whole time last night. I was very impressed. A few flags, and I alluded to them the last time I was here. I told you I grew up on that mountain, introduced there in 1958 on Casper Mountain. I've been an active pillar of the community for years. I shared my resume with you guys back in March. And it's with a heavy heart I come here again tonight. I'm not a drama man. I just tell it like it is, and you're all my friends. When I started rooting around, I find this K-Lynn Trails report. It talks all about Ponderosa Park. There's good money to pay for you guys with this. I found it written around on the county's website, and that isn't a very user-friendly website, I got to tell you. I couldn't find tonight's agenda on there today. I know you're all busy. But when I find this, snowmobiling, and there's people in the room tonight who are going to speak before you and tell you the benefit of that, because you don't understand. Get put on the back burner. I'm not here to sell snowmobiling tonight, others are. They mentioned a few times about snowmobiling in this plan. But I got to tell you, when I start looking at all these cross-country ski trails, and I see these big old loops in here, now they've grown to 35 foot wide. The East End Road from shoulder to shoulder is only 20 foot wide. The solid line on the state highway coming up the mountain, on one side, the solid lane, or the white line on the other side, it's almost 20 feet wide. Why in the world do we need trails 35 foot wide? So I listed my letter there. Who spec'd that machine and why? I sold the equipment. I spec'd the first Tucker. I came to that mountain that the cross-country Keats people got the benefit of, and they didn't want to pay to use it. And they're going to cry like crazy trying to pay for anything up there now. Every bicycle that hits that trail system right here, every bicycle should be paying a yearly registration the same cost as a snowmobile. every pair of skis that hit those trails, these are user passes for maintenance fees. You got 2 guys up there, you're working to death. You need to find a way to hire some more people. But every pair of skis, I don't care if somebody owns 5 pairs of skis and have 10 kids. I own 5 snowmobiles. I got to buy 5 registrations. Have a pair of snowshoes. They don't need to be paid. We don't need to be subsidizing. What's wrong? What's been lost here is all these snowmobile trails. I'll let Vic take this up, Mr. O'Hearn, in a work session with all of us. We're going to have a work session. I'm not going to meet the darn ski people. They're good folks, but Ponderosa Park was set aside for snowmobiling and ORVs. If there's any doubt, I just happen to have in here the master plan for, every document imaginable for Ponderosa Park from its inception to where it is today. I find it really unusual that you pay $30,000 or whatever the number was, and Ponderosa Park isn't even listed in the KLJ engineering plan. What's up with this? What's up with the fact that Snowmobile Club contacts your representative, whomever it was, I'm sure they'll tell you tonight, to try to go in and clean up Ponderosa shelter? I've got pictures of that nightmare. There's rats floating in the darn outhouses out there. The Parks Department has a vac truck. That's a health hazard right now. That restroom should have been repaired. If we're spending millions of dollars on this mess up there, I'm not going to go into that. Here you got a group of users that have paid their way. It's the only profit-making program the Parks Department ever had, and they gave it up. And the skiers benefited from that, but that wasn't good enough. I read a Casper Journal article. It states the percentages of how few snowmobilers want to use Ponderosa Park, but all these snowshoers and skiers, I got to tell you, I used to ride 1,500 miles a year. I very seldom, I don't think I could ever remember seeing a snowshoer or a set of cross-country ski trails in Ponderosa Park. Give me a break. Dick O'Hearn and I are going to have a real healthy discussion. That brings me to Crimson Dawn. I left you the documents there. I don't throw anything away. You'll find Mrs. Forsley's last will and testament. I'm going to save you the time of reading the terms and conditions. But if you go to 6, look at A, B, C, D, E, and F. A tourist court is what she lists on every one of her deeds she sold for properties. A tourist court is basically a tourist camp or a campground. But if you read through these, you know, I've talked to the family as well. I don't appreciate people misrepresenting themselves to me. I told you that the last time I was here. I told you the Lamont family usually doesn't ask the questions they want to have an answer for. Comes from an old hard-headed Scotch ancestor, I guess. That goes back to 1889. I told you that in the state of Wyoming, here before it became a State of the Union. This is ridiculous. Frank Ballin wrote that. I know all the people run the Parks Board, but she was kind enough to do that. Then she turns right around here in her deed and quotes the same thing again. Parks Department? There is no Parks Department, guys. I left you, Heather, a copy there of what a parks and playground is. You guys have given up. In 2004, there was $800,000 that year, and I have it. I think you split the one mill levy with the school district. I don't think you guys really know, but you need to find out. So there's $800,000 that can be coming in to hire help to rebuild that fence and pay for it. Also pay for the shelter. Dick tells me, O'Hearn, they're waiting on an insurance claim. I don't think there is an insurance claim. I'll find out. That's public information. I have friends everywhere. So You know, the snowmobile club, back to them. They volunteered to go in and clean that up. Bless their hearts. They were turned down. Don't know what the reason was. They also had all of these supplies, timbers, rafters, everything, donated to them. Sutherland's, whomever else. Never told they couldn't do it. And I got to tell you, there's some really skilled craftsmen in that bunch. Very much so. They aren't asking for a freebie. They're asking for their shelter back. But by the way, it's a multi-use shelter. And they're very giving, very caring. But when you find out they're going to put a telephone pole in the middle of their primary trail from bear trap out there, wrong thing to do. I would read you, and I'll supply you, Heather, with a copy of some of Mrs. Forsman's language. We've written all of our easements to our neighbors in her language, but you guys own that road. It goes all the way around that park, and can't even get a blade on it. You guys won't get rid of it. What's wrong with that picture? I've heard that. That goes to a primary park, 94 acres. And guess what? She said she allowed snowmobiling in it, so I guess it'll be back in there this winter. They respected that all this time. Back to the flagpole. Read condition number, the last condition on that. It says the county is responsible to take care of trade. Beer cans, I got pictures of all of it. Too lazy to go over and unlock the gate and clean it out. That woman gave them. Very careless. She was a naturalist. She lived in one of the president's, can't remember which one it was, wives, when before she married the president. There's a letter hanging on the wall in there. I told her the last time I was here. But guess what? They don't unlock the gate at night. Housemaster kick the door in because the nightlight isn't even on at the museum. But you're investing $50,000 in fixing the roof and the foundation, and you're going to tear down that building for the caretaker? Give me a break. Because there's mold in it. I think somebody just didn't like the design of it. That can be repaired. I sold chemicals that killed mold. That is the biggest smoke and mirror story I've ever heard. And by the way, let me get this real quick. This is the entire file that I copied. Tom Beckler was proud enough and kind enough to give me the copy of the complete drawings. I've got all the information along the correct about that building. If you didn't know how to fix it, there's the plans. They're in the Parks Department. So I don't think we better tear that building down. Because if you look at that agreement, all of the improvements go back to the heirs. So I guarantee you they've got funding to fight it. I think you want to sue, but you know, that's your business. I'll be more glad to sit down, you guys in a work session, go through every one of these things page by page by page. Only condition I have is my good friend Heather, and now her assistant is in the room with us. We have to rebuild an element of trust here, fellas. Here is the entire Ponderosa Park plan. I don't want to go into that. But this plan, I asked you guys way back when I came to see you in March to get rid of that plan. So what I do, I get shoved in my face. We're going to put a campground in Crimson Dawn. We're going to put a gazebo, a main parking lot. We're going to build a trail all the way down the old Hazelton and Sawmill Trail, across private property. And we're going to make a hiking trail. You know, the good news is saw tonight is a public hearing for the folks against Dam Lake. We didn't get that chance with the healing range up the mountain. We're going to talk about that another night. We're going to talk about open space here. I really appreciate Jason. He called me in. That was a red flag for me. I really appreciate him doing that. Jason's a good man, you're glad. But, you know, his head got put in the vice pretty hard because he was fast-tracked, and he didn't tell me that. I can figure that out. There's something wrong with this whole picture. So, you know, when I'm told that gun range meets the open space, I know what open space is. My brother was the city planner in the Vail Valley, the original one. I don't know about open space. He's still there. My family's highly educated in land use. And we've been good stewards of our property along with a lot of other people. So I got a flag. So what do, I go obtain, which I was a very willing participant in, the 1984 land plan, Casper Mountain. This is what you're bound to, not the RMP, that worthless piece of paper. And then I went and found the 2004 land plan. Do you guys have any idea how much trees have been lost up there? The 40 acres has been ripped, clean at the root ball, totally stripped of all its vegetation and topsoil, and never grow back. I don't care what their stories are. 300, 400,000 cubic yards of dirt, that's a mine. All sand. The viewership on that video that kid did, it's over 7,000 right now. It's not very good publicity for Casper and Natrona County. Talk about slope protection in this plan, all over. You talk about wildlife protection. You guys have violated every rule in the book. What an embarrassment. You know, I want to tell you about trees. My quick calculation, and talking with Ron Hunter, state forester, who was blackballed and thrown out of the party here because no one would listen to him. And by the way, all these state monies, there's not there's some federal money involved in that too. This is a pretty serious thing we're talking about here. Almost 50% of the trees have been lost on Casper Mountain. That's pretty alarming, isn't it? And we're up there cutting. It looks like 63 miles to me. I can't get a straight answer from that biathlon one. So that's a private club. Give me a break. Are they running the show here? No. It certainly looks like it. But after 63 miles going to 35 foot to go with this big old piston bully with 5 foot wide tracks on both sides, it should be on a ski slope over in Park City, pulling a 24 good Lord only knows how wide tiller with a how many dollar snowboard was bought for the front of it. Wow. And we can't put gravel on Crimson Road. Wow. And we can't fix the caretaker facility. I think you better get a parks board rather than a steering committee, and you better get some people on it, and I'll volunteer to be the chairman real fast. And I'll keep you guys out of trouble. But, you know, this is ridiculous. For a few people, the ROI, the personal use on that is going to be ridiculous. And I guarantee you, when that for-profit, non-profit group can't make it work, they're going to open up to every caliber you can imagine. So you have a nuisance law in the books. We talk about open space. Any idea what open space is? Look up the legal terms of it. And I guarantee you, 40 acres of raping and scraping of all the topsoil and vegetation doesn't fit the terminology of open space. I'm not going to go through all of that tonight, but I will tell you, I'm going to wrap up with this. We were violated to the max. There should have been a conditional use hearing permit process. That's an MR1, and we were violated. Plus, you've got a major conflict of interest in there, Hal Hutchinson. He doesn't work for those folks any longer. But he's on the planning commission that ran part of this thing through. I feel sorry for Jason. You know, he should stand a chance. There's conflicts all over this, but, you know, I'll get away from here for a bit. I have more to talk to you about if anybody else has time to. Please tell me they won't.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to leave my stuff right here.
Yeah, we'll invite others to come up. Again, I would ask those who wish to address the commission on the present comments to please approach the lectern.
Yeah, my name is Wayne Reed, 4230 East Wall Street. belonged to the snow gypsies, and we used that Ponderosa Park all the time when it was all up. About probably 2-3 weeks after the fire was over and they blocked off the road, they actually went through and cut down trees to make sure nobody went through that road. Let them drop on the road. Bob Debiaw is the guy that logs up there all the time. And I got with him because I work on his vehicles, and we were gonna go up and clean that road out so that we can get back to Ponderosa, so that we could get the shelter rebuilt back together before the snow flew. And one of the guys that we had called, I think his name's Glenn, I think is what it was, and he said there was no way for years that we were gonna get back there to fix that up. They were just gonna call it a loss. And that didn't make sense to us. We already had stuff donated, we had the equipment to go in, to clean up the road, to get back in there, to make it all safe, and they denied us to do it. And I don't know why. We had Lodorns, and we had stuff from Sutherland's, was offering stuff to go rebuild it. When it burnt down, all the glass wasn't in it. All the glass is still stored away. We could still build it, still use the same glass. Wouldn't be that expensive to put it back together. But we was volunteering to do it, to put it all back together, but we just was denied be able to do it, to go in there and take care of it. They said the county couldn't do it for a long time, and we offered to do it, and they just turned us down. I don't know why. But we sure would like to put it back together so that people can make use of it. There's quite a few snowmobiles. If you check the record how much money we put out for the getting the grooming and all that stuff, it's quite a bit of money. And there's a lot of people that come from all over the country, Minnesota, Michigan, all over to come and ride down here. And there's no reason why Casper shouldn't benefit from that. But that's all I got to say. I'd like to give the rest of my time back to Tracy.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Reed? And
Good evening, my name is Lou Grunwald. I live in Mills at 455 South 4th Street. I've been involved with the Snowmobile Club for the last 25 years. Some of the stuff that Tracy mentioned is for real. The Snow Gypsies, back in the 70s, developed all the trails that are in your cross-country ski area today, except for the new ones that were added on in the last 10 years. But that whole inner core of the mountain was developed by the Snowmobile Association here, and the grooming has always been done with state money that comes from our registration fees. Back to Ponderosa Park, the stove is sitting bolted to the floor in Ponderosa Park I built in 1992, and we moved it down there when Ben Brown was still on the mountain. We rebuilt the doorway to the shelter with the help of Ben from the county, so that people wouldn't slip and fall. The original door was on the south side. Every time the snow melted off the roof, went on the concrete step, people fell and got hurt. We helped move the door to the east, or I guess the west side. Put in a stove because the fireplace didn't do the job. We used that shelter for the last umpteen years. As long as I've been sledding up there, we've used the shelter. And I'd sure like to see the opportunity to go back in there and get it back up. I've been a member of the Snowmobile Club here for 25 years, state association for just as long, and with the donations that some of the members have put together, we can go do it. All we need is approval to do it. We need to clean up the road, to get in and out, and then after that, once the snow hits, the road's no problem, but right now it's pretty rough. We need to do a little bit of work on it. We have equipment available to haul out the trash and the rock and stuff that needs to be moved, or find a place to put it down there, dig a hole and dump it, because the fireplace that's there needs to go, or be closed off because it's not usable in the wintertime. The reason the stove got put in, the fireplace sucks the heat out of the building as fast as you can make it. We closed it off, put the stove in, but I'd like to see the shelter back, and be more than willing to Since I've been involved that long, I'd be involved, and today I drop over with the snowmobile club and get it back up and running. The rest of the park, I know that the study said that at one time there was talk about turning it into an ORV park. If that happens, that needs to be left back to the trails. Because the steepness of some of the area down there and the sand that's underneath the topsoil, if you leave it open to bikes going up and down the hillside, it's going to tear it up. And we're going to have the same problem we're going to have over in the biathlon area. Take the topsoil away, the sand washes away anytime we get a rain or snow spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to address the commission? If not, commissioner comments. Commissioner Schlager.
Well, I originally didn't have much to say, but it sure doesn't make sense to me to turn down people that are volunteering to work on a shelter. I'd sure like to see that taken care of, I guess. If we have people that are willing to volunteer, do some maintenance on the shelter in County Park, it just doesn't make sense for us to thumb our nose at something like that. It doesn't make sense. And that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Henry?
Well, I kind of wondered that same thing, but after a fire, usually you have a lot of trees that could fall down at any minute. That may be part of the reason. If it is, there could be a sign put up or something, enter at your own risk or whatever, but maybe we ought to look into that a little bit. That was all. Oh, we went down, we had a meeting of the Waco Association of Elected Officials in town, in the state, had that down in Laramie. Pretty successful meeting. One of the things that's going to be the downturn in the economy that's going to affect cities, towns, and counties for quite some time. So that's going to affect a lot of projects, and this could be a lot of them. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lawson?
I don't have too much other than kind of follow up a little bit on this discussion that just occurred. I'm sure there's a lot more information behind this, so I plan on following Mr. Goodwin why that hasn't been able to be opened back up and people allowed back in there with regard to this shelter.
We got the snowmobile back in there last year. And so we can get in there. It's open. As far as the trees, what you're talking about, that we've been able, they opened the gate and let us go in snowmobiling last year. So it just, we need to just be able to go in and take care of it. We've been there already.
Well, the state went in last fall, and cut most of the widowmakers that they felt were widowmakers, and cut and stacked the wood off the side. It was done by state trails with the blessing of the county parks to go in there and prevent anything from falling over and causing a problem. And they groomed the trail all the way into where the shelter was and back up. So that's already been done.
Commissioner Lawson?
Just one question. Is anybody preventing you to go in there and work on that shelter?
The county.
Well, we can't go in and work on the shelter without approval from the county.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's a county property.
Have you sought that?
Pardon me?
Have you sought that? Sought that approval?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in the initial contacts, so I can't tell you. I know there was contacts made with the county, I believe through the Parks Division. I was not party to that. All I can tell you is, like I said, they groomed all the way into the shelter last year. The state was going to go in and clear some of the brush on the TP and pitch pin trails, which go from the shelter or east around the loop and come back out at the shelter on the other end. It's about 5 miles around there. Around there, so they can go back in and groom, because they didn't groom the last one because there was too much stuff in the way. Neither side of that trail down through TP and Pitchpin Canyon was burnt. The fire actually went around most of that. There's some areas down there that were burnt, but there's still quite a bit of that particular area in TP and Pitchman Canyon was not burned. Fire went over the top of it, and didn't bother the canyon.
Okay, thank you.
Forrest, could I add just one short assistant here?
Well, and we're into the commissioner's comments, so if you would catch us afterwards, please. As for myself, I'd like to welcome Charmaine